guys, I hope I'm not super backlit right now, but welcome to another Best Picture nominee review. Today I'm going to be talking about Lion. So fitting that I have a little lion kitty behind me. Just a quick warning, if you have not seen this film yet, do not put lotion on your hands right before you see this movie unless you have some other method of wiping your tears away, like a tissue, because I put on lotion right before I saw this and I was getting it all up in my eyes because it's a crier. Alright, so this movie is based on a true story, which makes it even more emotional. A young Indian boy, I think he was 5 at the time, mistakenly gets on a train and ends up 1,000 miles away from home. He spends some time on the streets and then eventually he is adopted by an Australian family, and then 25 years later he uses Google Earth to search for his home. This is a beautiful story which takes you through a lot of emotions as you're watching. Here are some that I felt. You got happiness, fear, sadness, loneliness, hope, joy, frustration, a lot of frustration, and then there is a huge emotional payoff at the end. So I've been going to the movies by myself a lot lately, and I actually really enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with it, but I want to advise you guys, maybe don't see this one by yourself, because the whole time I just like really wanted to hug my family and never let go. Like, I felt so lonely during parts of this movie. So maybe just make sure you have someone you know by your side who you can be like, oh my god, I love you. This was directed by Garth. This was actually his first feature film. He's done a lot of commercials before, which is pretty common for directors. They start out in commercials and then get into films. I think it was a pretty darn good debut for him. The screenplay was written by Luke Davies and it was adapted from Saru Brierley's book, A Long Way Home. This film had an interesting structure. It was a little bit unusual and it felt like it was kind of two separate acts put together. In the beginning you have young Saru in India, and then the second half you kind of have older Saru in Australia. Now I really want to talk about some specific parts of the movie, so if you guys haven't seen it yet, this would be a good time to turn off this video, come back later. If you have, or if you don't care if I spoil it, here we go. So in this first act, Saru is played by Sunny Pawar. The movie starts off pretty happy with Saru and his brother, and it seems like his family is very poor, like very poor, but you can tell that they're happy. Then we see Saru get lost, he's on that train, nobody can help him. That was so sad to watch him like calling out to everybody like, save me, help me, and like nobody does anything because we don't realize at first those people do not speak the same language as him. He ends up 1,000 miles away in Calcutta. So then he ends up spending some time on the streets, and eventually he is adopted by an Australian family and he moves to Tasmania. So I have some thoughts on Sunny Pawar here. He is so freaking cute, but he also gave a really moving performance. He pretty much had equal screen time with Dev Patel, who played the older Saru, and I think he really held his own. It's unusual to have the younger version of the character in the film for so long. That's why this structure is a little bit unique. Usually they just have the younger character, they establish the story, and then they move on to the older actor. But I think it was really smart the way that they set this up, because we got a lot more insight into the struggles that Saru faced before he was adopted by the Australian family. It was so sad when we just see him walking around on like those train tracks. He's holding that piece of cardboard that he was sleeping on, and that at the time was like his only possession. He was so far away from home, he didn't have anything. I think one of the most frightening parts of the whole movie was when that young woman found him and brought him back to her apartment. And at first it seemed like she was this motherly figure and she was helping him out. She said that her friend was gonna help him, but then her friend or boyfriend or whatever he was shows up, and it was super creepy. He was like looking at his body and stuff, and he was like all snuggly with him. It was really strange. It really seemed like they were involved in like sex trafficking or something. It was very disturbing, but it was a huge relief when he ran away and got out of there. And this whole first half was such a huge contrast to the way that he ended up being raised in Australia. So like I said, in the second half, older Saru is played by Dev Patel, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor here. I really feel like either Dev or Sunny or both could have been nominated for Best Supporting because they both did such a great job in this movie. It seems crazy that they could have like 10 Best Picture nominees, but still only like 5 or whatever it is in the acting categories. So when we start this second half of the movie, Saru is now in his 20s and he's in Australia. He's got a freaking hot accent. He is a hunk. Then he's leaving home to go study hotel management. This part of the movie also takes us through his budding relationship with his girlfriend Lucy, who's played by Rooney Mara. This was a little bit of a disappointment for me. I thought this character was really underdeveloped, and it seemed like her main purpose in the movie was to be Saru's girlfriend. I wish they would have done a little bit more with that character, but it is what it is. We also never got to see what really happened with them at the end of the film. I guess they didn't end up together. I think the real Saru has said in interviews that Lucy was actually like a composite of a couple of different girlfriends that he had, so maybe that's why we didn't hear what happened to them at the end. I don't know, but for the sake of the movie, I think we could have seen a little bit more development for Lucy. One of the great things about this movie, we really got a good look at the beauties and the realities and struggles of adoption. Nicole Kidman gave a really tender performance as Saru's adoptive mother, Sue. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role in this film. That 80s wig though! It was freaking crazy, oh my god. They really had to do the makeup right to get the adoptive parents looking all 80s, but they did a good job of that. Good job, makeup department. I think Nicole Kidman's performance in this film was so strong because she was able to pull from personal experience here. We know she has a few adopted children with Tom Cruise, so she was really able to channel that and make this special. Then we've got David Wenham playing the dad. He was Faramir in Lord of the Rings! His adopted dad was Faramir! Ugh, but the parents together made me cry so much. Both times in the movie when they showed up at the airport to pick up the kids they were adopting with the little stuffed animals. Oh my god, I'm such a sucker for plushies. There's a beautiful scene together when they're sharing their first meal after they just picked up Saru at the airport, and they had been practicing before he was adopted to teach the kids how to speak English and to eat with utensils because they weren't even using utensils before. They were eating with their hands, and it's such a huge contrast. But then when they were eating together, and he was just like, Peppa, it was so cute. So it was nice to see him build such a strong relationship with his adoptive parents. Now we got to see that he had a bit more of a struggle raising Mantosh. It seemed like Mantosh was really struggling a lot with his past. Because it is a true story, all of these characters are real people. So I'm wondering, maybe they didn't want to share as much of his story, but I am curious what kind of past he had. But there were a lot of really powerful scenes between the two brothers. You could see they did love each other, even though there was some tension there. And there were also some great scenes between Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman. I especially love the scene with the older Saru when he was talking to his mother, and she was explaining how she could have kids with her husband, but they had decided that they wanted to adopt. And it was just really moving and touching, and I was a mess. So then it looks like Saru's got a pretty great life in Australia, but then he sees those jalebies at that party and he's reminded of his biological family, and that really begins his search for home. I think this is where the movie kind of sagged a little bit for me. I think once they established how he was going to use Google Earth to find his home, like, we got it. You know, we got it. He's doing the math, he made the radius and everything. But then it dragged a little bit. We saw his downward spiral, he quit his job, it was just driving him crazy that he could not figure out where he came from. And I get that, but I just think maybe they could have tightened this part up just a little bit. And it was really heartbreaking to see how he kept this all on his own shoulders. He didn't want to share this with anyone. He didn't want his adoptive parents to feel like he was ungrateful or like he was trying to run away from them. So again, you can really see the connection there. But then finally he was able to share it with them, and that again was like a huge relief. And then it was so satisfying when he finally found his home. He was able to travel there. And then again, we're hit in the face because he finds his home and there's like a bunch of goats in there. His family doesn't live there anymore. But then that guy leads him to his mother, and the reunion was so emotional. He also meets his younger sister. And then, you know what? Let's punch you in the face again, emotionally. It was so sad when his mother told him that his older brother had died, and it turns out that he died the same night that Saru went missing, which is just absolutely heartbreaking for their mother, that in one night, one of her sons died and the other one went missing. I can't even imagine that. But I mean, it does explain why he did not return to the bench to bring Saru home. I thought it was comforting that they included that scene of older Saru walking along the train tracks with the memory of his brother, and then they showed little Saru too. So that was really sweet. And then at the end, we got a little extra bonus footage. We got to see the real life Saru bringing his adoptive parents to meet his biological mother in India. That was really special. I'm glad that they tacked that on at the end. I thought we were in the clear though. After seeing that, I had to hang back in the theater for a few minutes to like clean myself up before I walked out into the real world again. But just to wrap things up here, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was beautiful. It was like extra special that it was based on a true story. Also, it's like extra stabs in the heart when you know it's a true story, but I'm glad that there was a happy ending. We haven't seen tons of that yet this Oscar season, so that was nice. But let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and until next time, much love.